Support for this podcast comes from the law firm of Davis Malm. Whether you're a developer, property owner, manager, or commercial tenant, their real estate attorneys know the lay of the land, not just the law. Learn more at davismalm.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. WBUR State House reporter Walter Wuthmann. Welcome back.
Thanks, Daryl.
Walt, last time you were here, you were a general assignment reporter. Now you're the WBUR State House reporter. How's that going?
It's going well. It is a little intimidating. It's a whole different world up there, and there's a lot to learn. So I'm easing myself into it, and I think it's going to be good.
Well, Walt, the Walter Wuthmann era at the State House begins, and it starts off with this $250 million funding package for the state shelter system, which has just been passed along with a larger supplemental budget package. Talk to us about what's in this shelter funding package and, why it's so important right now.
So this is $250 million that Governor Healey requested back in September, projecting that the overburdened state family shelter system was going to run out around January. Massachusetts is facing this twin housing crisis along with this uptick in migrants from places like Haiti and Venezuela who are seeking to settle here. And there's just this crunch in the family shelter system. And the governor says that we are just out of room. I think you spoke to our reporter Gabriella Emanuel about when Governor Healey set the 7,500 family cap on the system. So once that cap was hit in November, dozens of families have been put on a wait list, and they've just been kind of waiting in limbo to figure out what happens to them. So in this $250 million, there's $50 million to set up a new emergency overflow shelter site for families who are currently on a wait list. There's $75 million to reimburse school districts who are, incurring more costs as they educate more kids and take on more students. And there's $5 million to help with work permit authorization programs. So to help some of these new arrivals to Massachusetts get their work authorization papers cleared and able to work in Massachusetts.
Okay, Walt, it passed, but why did it take so long?
There's been all of these roadblocks to it. So it's attached to this larger, closer to $3 billion supplemental budget, which the legislature has to pass in order to close the books on the fiscal year, which ended 5 months ago. But
a little late there.
They are late on that. And so this $250 million for the family shelter system is part of that. But it's been held up because Democrats in the House and Senate could not agree on how they wanted it to be spent. The House wanted to sort of dictate how it was going to be spent, really held the line and fought hard for that emergency overflow shelter provision. They wanted to mandate that the governor's administration had to set this new site up. And so they won that concession at the bargaining table with their state Senate counterparts. State senators wanted to send the $250 million that the governor requested and allow the administration flexibility to spend it as they saw fit. And so they kind of won back some more flexibility in how that money is going to be spent. But importantly, $50 million does have to be spent on this new overflow shelter site. Another thing that was slowing this up is that because they took so long to negotiate that, they missed this really key November 15th deadline where they switched from formal sessions to informal sessions where there are just different rules, and it gives any one lawmaker a lot of power to hold up legislation. So Republicans who are in the minority in the House and the Senate suddenly had all of this influence to delay a bill that they really didn't like. They are opposed to the shelter funding. They wanted to get it stripped out of the supplemental budget. So they were using a whole bunch of procedural tactics to throw sand in the gears and slow it down and really make their opposition known.
We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Did you kill Marlene Johnson?
I think you're one of the first people to have actually asked.
From WBUR and ZSP Media, this is Beyond All Repair, a new podcast about an unsolved murder that will leave you questioning everything.
Somebody should be in jail for murdering my sister.
A woman who's never been believed.
As long as they think I have done this, then they're not looking for who actually did this.
And that's what makes it a cold case.
No, it's a botched case.
And a search for the truth, once and for all.
Wow, it just gets more interesting.
Beyond All Repair. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Be careful. You're digging in a place that's been very peaceful for a while.
Do it anyway. Dig.
And we're back with more from Walt. I just want to talk about the $3 billion as a whole.
Yeah.
What else is in this package?
There's a lot in it. A huge thing is contracts and raises for public employees. So a lot of these are raises that were already negotiated through the collective bargaining process months and months and months ago, but has not been appropriated yet. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars that people are waiting to see. I've seen in the past week, a lot of public employees in their purple SEIU T-shirts roaming through the halls of the Capitol and knocking on representatives' doors and trying to say, hey, you need to pass this, especially as Christmas and the holidays approach. People want to see their full paychecks. This is money that they are
This is not the time of year to play with people money.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff in that supplemental budget. Money for mass health, language to set the next state election primary after Labor Day. So all of this stuff, money, contracts, procedural stuff that the state government needs to keep running.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to any housing advocates about the $250 million?
Yes, and they're at the State House every day. So one of the most vocal advocates is Kelly Turley. She's the associate director for the Massachusetts Coalition for the Homeless. They held this vigil outside the State House earlier this month. Let's listen to what she told me.
Right now, there are more than 100 families on a waiting list to access state-funded shelter. These are all families who've already been approved for state-funded shelter. They've proven they have no place else to go.
I wonder, just generally speaking about this whole thing, with this being a $3 billion supplemental budget that addresses a lot of different issues, is it normal for lawmakers to be in this position where they're so far behind their deadline, to pass a bill like this that seems pretty important?
I think it is strangely normal. Arguably, it's becoming more normal where the state legislature likes to wrap up these very important policy questions and things like budgets, where you can put a whole bunch of stuff in one thing and the whole thing gets voted up or down. So it can be an efficient way to move a lot of policy, but it can also be very messy because it's hard to pull things out and really debate things with, nuance. And so I know the Republicans are definitely upset that this is how this shelter funding question is being debated. I spoke to Brad Jones, who's the minority leader of the House, and here's a bit of what he said to reporters in the hallway.
My caucus continues to have a concern over the migrant issue. We're spending $250+ million on top of what's already been appropriated, and every single indication is that the governor of the Commonwealth is going to file a new request either at the end of this year or in January, looking for additional resources.
So Republicans wish that the shelter funding was a separate thing that they were debating, and all the rest of the things we were talking about, the money for public employees, the new state primary, that was a standalone in the supplemental budget that they could approve. That stuff is uncontroversial.
Understood. Walt, thank you so much for talking to us about this. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daryl.
That's WBUR State House reporter Walter Wuthmann. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. If you want to get in touch with us, please hit us up on Instagram at WBUR The Common or send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I will talk to you tomorrow.